Greetings, beloved ones. From 3D to 4D and 5D flares. Increasing solar flares in recent weeks and months have caused northern lights in southern latitudes, which came as a surprise to many. What does all this mean for us as a civilization and the planet as a whole? Now, multiple rays, energy of attention, are directed from the greater cosmos to 3D Earth. The activation of our day luminary goes through a single fractal neural network where one neuron ignites another from macro to micro scales from the universe's core and via the galactic central sun to the stars' planets. It reaches all living beings down to unicellular and bacteria. Gaia is rocking in high-frequency waves and storms moving onward and upward. More often, souls who came on Earth from other constellations delete very heavy energy layers on the subtle plane, and by unfolding their consciousness vertically and horizontally remove overstrain for each of us. It's also a global exam complicated by the system's attempts to prevent adaptation to new energies by all means. Many Earthlings endure it very hard physically and psychologically, but this way they get rid of many karmic piles, personal, family, and planetary. A lot of stellar souls have contracts with 3D Earth for the processing of energies that it and Earthlings can't work out. That causes a huge amount of hard emotions and mood swings. But from space, Earth is seen wrapped in a renewing and healing radiance from which activation vortices and flashes come and powerful energy tornadoes erupt from the depths. This process affects all of humanity, but targeted first of all on the Gaia's relationship with the universe. Human activations are secondary, but the radiance of the entire planet ignites our inner shining, awakens the spirit in a person and reminds him of the greatness of this world, which many have forgotten. What does it all mean for civilization? On the one hand, the stratification of realities by density goes on. On the other hand, co-creators burn out the layers of planetary and near-terrestrial space from the parasitic connections of NA darks and grays. The scanning and removal of their vampiric programs, which were previously not visible from the upper levels of the subtle plane, continues. In parallel, centrosomes, dormant light nuclei of cells, are activated, increasing their internal luminosity. Changes at this level occur for everyone in their own way, so there is no single symptom. Everything happens individually. Three-dimensional biology was made up of low-frequency gray and sticky light as conflicting mix of forces internal and external. The old organic matter was solid, dense, and rigid. Now 3D matter is being transformed simultaneously with the environment space, creating a new physical organics. Today, doctors state that people's blood composition is changing. There are two types of matter in the body simultaneously: biological and light crystalline. Liquid light gradually displaces the protein structure. The centrosomes are activated and push the mitochondria carriers, including the protein mufusin 2, which controls stress, to the periphery of the cell and then into the intercellular space, and there they dissolve in radiation. Doctors diagnose anemia, but in fact mitochondrial protein blood turns into light-bearing blood. When people replace mitochondrial cellular energy metabolism with light cellular respiration, they feel strong and cheerful. From the moment of its awakening, the centrosomes begin to emit new high-frequency vibrations, and mitochondria are crowding to the edge of the cell, losing their function as the main power station of the cellular structure because they've been generating energy of old reptilian fresh all the time. The centrosomes receive and transmit light, its photons, in a dosed manner, helping spontaneous recovery. Doctors cannot understand. The man was ill and suddenly recovered. What happened? Lucky. But the centrosomes did it, distributing light energy in the body in the best way. It can be tight, soft, or hard as a stone, and at the same is sentient and understands well what and how to do. To do this, Centrosomes use a network of light conduits, microtubules that connect to neurons, ensuring the delivery of the necessary intelligent luminous energy to any part of the corpus. As a result, the diseased organ recovers, as scientists think, on its own. In addition, the centrosomes begin to run the lifetime of the cells. These changes at the cellular level make us more lucid. This applies first of all to all those who from the home worlds came here to the call of Gaia or are legitimately incarnated on Earth. Those who invaded and enslaved the planet, plunder its natural resources, mutilated with genetic technogeeks experiments, who are overwhelmed with darkness and aggressive malice, can take new energies and fade away. External and internal spaces will heat up eventfully and psychologically, forcing to make an unambiguous choice. Those who continue to emit heavy low vibrations are already peeling off from the new Earth field. It works like a sieve, a filter of 𝐓𝐇𝐄𝐘 based on luminosity. Negative people aren't able to withstand the increasing vibrations, causing accelerated exit from the body or severe illnesses. Energy structures and psyche, physical and subtle bodies can burn and burst from tension according to the principle of where something is thin. That's where it tears. Those for whom light is natural could transform the body, regenerate glands and organs, prolong life at their wish. For the average person, the changes will be less noticeable. In most people, light waves first awaken spirituality, activate consciousness from within. Much depends on the individual genetic code, from which homeworlds the soul came, how many times it was incarnated, to what Earths and cosmic races belongs, and many other parameters. In the arrived here recently or for the first time, the cells are lit much easier because don't have blocks as in old prisoners of samsara. In the newcomers, quantum currents circulate faster, so changes take less time. Many of these souls brought the codes of their civilizations, which are now activating in physical bodies that can also be painful due to the unusual nature of the process. They came here precisely to know how to incarnate and live in 3D matter, so have enough tools for adapting. Long-term residents don't have such codes tools, or they are partially lost/fragmented/distorted. That's why old-timers are so resistant to change. The burden of epochs and damaged genetics that need to be overcome are too great in them. Their transforming is much harder and takes more strength to ignite the light in the cells. The stratification of the Earth's reality can't be stopped. At the quantum level, this occurs rapidly. But on the physical plane, it's less noticeable, though parting with the old and moving into the new is felt painfully. Laziness and impotence, headaches and joint pains, aggression and irritation. Mood swings from happiness and joy to fear and despair. A feeling of separation of consciousness from the body and distraction, skin irritation and inflamed eyes, constant lack of sleep and spontaneous awakenings at night. All these are symptoms of adaptation to new planetary conditions. Those who actively work with their genetic code feel better. For that, we don't have to practice. Just be grateful to life, welcome the sun, and live in a simple way. The key words are inner purity, which radiates light. This means that the centromes, the inner sun, are already working in us. The cells are easily ignited, and their radiance enhances the shining. It's natural for such people because their luminosity is based on a huge inner work of soul and spirit. This means not only recover from internal disagreements, resentments, anger, etc., but also the absence of lying to self and others, a pure heart and intentions. Relationships with primary universal energies are also important. Has there ever been a betrayal of the divine? If it was, then the stream does not flow directly, but overcomes the barriers of renunciation and oblivion, moral abysses, and log jams. The light comes, but weakened. Genetics reflects the entire history of relations with the world, the whole path of a person in each incarnation. And the higher the karmas piles, the more difficult it is in one life to work them out. Who is shining brightly now? His path of passing light through self has started long ago or never was interrupted. There are suggestions on the internet that harps cause northern lights and magnetic storms. This is far from the case. The cosmic scale of the events is incomparable with the Mussel-like fuss of harps. Yes, the system specifically turns on these installations trying to suppress quantum energies, but it's nothing compared to galactic flows. By warming up the atmosphere with microwave radiation, Darks and the Greys hope to create an energy shield to block the space codes to enter Earth, but powerless to stop them. Gaia is growing, and we are growing with her. This is the initiation of the planet and of us, its children. She is currently experiencing a might energy surge in the core and elementals of ether, air, fire, water, and earth. But co-creators are holding back this process to prevent devastating consequences for humanity. This is no longer her pain and anger as it was a couple of years ago when she was ready to launch a super volcano or a major cataclysm. But a lot of light beings from higher levels calmed Gaia down because the situation was on the verge. Now the planet has a different process. It's again in vivid emotions. This is indeed a holiday. Spontaneous manifestations of Gaia's joy and outbursts are possible. But in any case, the destructive force of potential cataclysms will be extinguished. If something happens, it will be an order of magnitude less than what would have occurred without regulation. The flares will continue, and we must adapt to their planetary rhythms. Not only the solar and magnetic activity, but also the key geopolitical and social events will unfold as the new codes are unpacked during solstices and equinoxes. With their help, co-creators annihilate old energy informationational layers. Every time after such cleansing, there is an exhalation of joy, freedom, interaction, and co-creation of cosmic and Earth's energies are established. When a flash bursts on the sun, Gaia reacts, and a strong energy weave is formed, which gives birth to new evolutionary potentials. They enhance her interaction with the luminary. Their energy information exchange gives rise to new development options. Interplay between our planet and civilization with other worlds and their races. Potentials produce blueprints of entire spaces and events for many epochs ahead. Many geniuses of the universe participate in this co-creation and all take the exam together before one. And for that Earth as an experimental platform conducts so many quantum flows and examining processes through self to protect Earthlings from too much exposure to cosmic radiation sent through the solar portal. Co-creators cover everyone who might be injured with the protective energy hood shells. First of all, empaths and the elderly whose nervous system hardly withstands such a massive pressure of high-frequency waves. Emotional and physical swings are now experienced mainly by those who need to learn how to work with new vibrations. When we experience sudden mood ups and downs, it is likely that we are being trained to live in the new energies. If there are no negative symptoms, it means that we no longer need to adapt to intense radiation or our individual wave has not yet arrived. Unfortunately, in some cases, the protection of co-creators doesn't work at full strength, and people may experience symptoms similar to schizophrenia because their body and brain cannot cope with a sharp increase in flow and energy informationational overload due to accumulated negativity. In this case, such personalities have to be shielded from the world and their own thoughts. Therefore, think before thinking about something. Friendly space races provide similar assistance to us. For our protection, they use another type of energy shields in the form of two parachute domes. One large one is at the top and the one below is the size of a head and covers it. The domes are connected by power channels. The whole subtle construction is very strong and mobile and is applied to those who achieved high consciousness but still have poor mental control. When a high discipline of thought is reached, the screens are removed and a person can actively participate in the transition since his vibrations and consciousness already allow this. In general, today our thinking has a more powerful impact on the surrounding space and people than before. Many are now being thrown to different branches of the reality depending on personal frequencies, moods. Recently, we started noticing that remember one version of events and our relatives or other factors speak of another. This is caused by jumping between the branches or by aspects that remain dormant for a long time and now activated in many souls. In such cases, the flow of information can increase many timelines because a whole layer of knowledge, experience, abilities, channels, and insights is connected which has not been manifested before. When we reconnect with the parallel aspect of the soul on another reality's branch, we also begin to become aware of it at least partially. Another reason is that solar codes affect the nervous system, and if it is unstable, it affects memory. For example, near schizophrenic reactions to increased frequencies occur if a person takes drugs, alcohol, stimulants that greatly excite the emotional system, and open access to darks who manipulate the memory of their victims, and the light guardians step aside, especially if the soul repeatedly confirms its negative choice. Symptoms of shadow activations can be an increase in arrogance, unshakable confidence solely in own truth, rejection of others' opinion, a sharp sex hunger, sudden falling in love or bitterness, splitting of consciousness up to simultaneous stay in two or more different realities, events and facts in which don't coincide. For example, a person can do one thing and remember another. When trying to explain that another event occurred in this reality which has documentary evidence or the memory of other people, he goes into blind denial or simply changes the conversation. Consciousness is buggy out of the blue, as often happens when talking about uncomfortable topics with guilty kids. In some cases, a person indeed doesn't understand what is being said and surprised, annoyed by attempts to prove the opposite. In other cases, he deliberately lies, covering up his immoral actions and justifying them with fluctuations in multidimensional space or a higher plan incomprehensible to the mind, ignoring or reinterpreting any inconvenient facts. An interesting fact: when activating the shadow aspects, a person's attractiveness to others, charisma, and strength often increase. He may look or be much wiser than his age. His intentions are fulfilled at the snap. Reading information is also greatly simplified. A man sees through others, has great access to different levels and databases. As practice shows, this access is often given precisely through the shadow channel through which dark run explicitly or in secret. When activating the shadow aspects, light hoods can also be used because a person becomes dangerous to self and others. Thus, on the one hand, the risk of destructive influence on people decreases, but on the other hand, the threat of numerous illusions increases. If black crystals, a concentrate of negative experience, are also activated, this further aggravates aggression, complete rejection of someone else's opinions, and the desire to provoke quarrels and conflicts. If a person's soul is under control and does not choose such an experience on its own, tantrums are possible for no reason. This is how the soul tries to reach its embodied aspect. There is another category of those who, under impact of alien intrusion and possession, are inspired with anything from omnipotence to worthlessness, and from prophetic dreams and love-hate to the illusion of living hundreds of realities' branches with the ability to change them all as they please. Such personalities usually like to make loud statements and prophecies, whether personal or global. Anyone who takes any info for granted without checking it in any way, but simply following the instructions from above, even if they extremely doubtful, falls into a trap. Yes, many people are now given new tasks and knowledge, but the balance of logic and intuition must also be kept, because in an ecstatic state, it's easy to catch someone else's wave and become another prey of the darks and grays with sad consequences. At the same time, it's also important to remember that darkness itself is not a priori bad. It's just that its excessive concentration often upsets the balance and distorts the energy structure. In the greater cosmos, the light creates the dark tests for strength and vulnerability. Everything is honest and in unity and struggle of opposites. This process becomes unfair when the balance, agreements, interests of the parties, free will and choice freedom are violated. It is wise not to take information of crucial importance or questionable motives at its word, but to check everything as far as possible. When someone starts proclaiming the truth to everyone in sight, pay attention to where it leads. If it reeks of programming, better not to let such info into your field. By leaps of mood and well-being, we are shown two different realities, or rather states that form them, and they offer to choose the one that is more to our liking. This choice is individual for each, so there is no general formula. Some need to get rid of resentments, others to stop immersing their attention in terrible news, thirds to quit addictions, and so on. Waves of solar flares and codes come one after another, pass around the globe, purge the old and give place to the new. The process of dying is gradual and the space is filled with fresh life and development. Gaia is reborn, upgrades, and moves from one level to another as a child grows from infancy to adolescence and beyond. Each solar eruption, even if not directed towards Earth, carries a charge of energy to change our settings and DNA. In some cases, memory is lost. Forgetfulness and absent-mindedness arise. In others, on the contrary, recall returns, including from other lives and home worlds. Now, the emphasis is on letting go of the past. So, childhood and adolescent traumas come up, as well as the shocks of recent years. Betrayals, resentments, and other pains emerge again in consciousness, giving the opportunity to turn over an old page in the book of life. In any case, remember that we are all right. We don't go crazy, and we don't have to keep inside what is burdensome and looking for a way out. If we need to express something that has long been hidden in the depths of the psyche, do it. Talk to those who want to know about our feelings, even if they are not ready to understand us. If we do this sincerely from the deepest heart, the info will reach the human soul and accumulated negativity will be removed. It is not necessary to call or meet. We can contact mentally by expressing our aspirations. We are not just freeing selves from old trauma's weight. We turn our attention from it and outside world to cells and change our state and by it the reality. This is how we grow up and become its co-creators and architects.